Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Special School District. Welcome to our meeting tonight. Welcome to the business meeting. All those who are able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't want you to trip. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good evening, everyone. Tom, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Director Asner. Director Moeller.
Here.
Director Sartorius.
Here.
Director Suda.
Present.
Vice President Staton.
Here.
President Cuneo.
Here. We have a quorum, and there's Dr. Asner. So we're completely full. All right. Public speakers, I don't think we have any public speakers.
We do.
Do we?
We have two.
Okay,
Not to grab the sheet, but there are two.
okay, I did.
Paul Hoffman's first, I believe.
Please don't start the timer just yet. Information that I'll be referring to.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have a secondary pack I'll give you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Tim, thank you.
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of our school board, and also good evening to our superintendent, Dr. Macklin, as well as our leadership team. My public comments tonight are regarding agenda item 6.09, budget adjustments and district finances. I wanted you to know first and foremost what you see tonight. This is not a solo effort. It's a collaborative effort. This is in conjunction with regional leadership as well as our state leadership at Missouri NEA, including President Murray, Otto Fajan, our lobbyist, as well as Mr. Kurt Swanson. Mr. Swanson is the UNISERV director for Missouri NEA in Kansas City, but he is also a school board member for Blue Springs School District. His official title is fiscal vice president. In other words, anything related to projections, the state budget picture, and things that can affect, he is the expert. And he has been consulting with SDNEA for the last 2 years, in addition to looking at the finances this year. So I do want to give him credit. In December, Mr. Swanson advised SDNEA leadership that looking at state revenues, that there were additional revenues that should be considered beyond what was on the original district's budget, including increases in several areas. We shared this with the district, including our chief financial officer, Mr. Eilman, in December. And I was happy to see on Ms. Vaughn's report tonight that she has said, yes, there's additional 10 million in revenue that we think we can capture from the state. So I'm glad to see that feedback was received. The first thing I want you to take a look at is that the number that's at the top of your first page, which is $612,889,000. This was the number that Dr. Cummings told this board last February that expenses were going to come in after last year for the fiscal year. 3 months later, after receiving additional receipts, as we say in the coaching profession, hay is in the barn, and even with school board input from Missouri School Board Association, this number was repeated to the governing council on June 3rd, 2024. So with 11 or 12 fiscal months, hopefully we'd have an accurate number. Then you see the number at the bottom, which was $14.3 million. That's how far off the expense projections were. I don't say this to belittle anyone who is coming up with that, but merely to ask the question that if the methodology or the calculation itself with 11 or 12 months of data was not accurate, we might want to press pause when we're looking at long-term projections, especially those that concern our fund balance 2, 3, and 4 years out. The next thing I want you to bring attention to is what I believe is an expert opinion, that if you look in your handout, it's from the audit report that you received from the firm in November. Please look at the highlighted portion, which says, the district's financial net position was $74.6 million. As June 30th, the district's financial position is strong. These words contradict the message that is being conveyed to media outlets such as the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, as well as what's been said to several staff members throughout the district. Again, this is the words of the auditors themselves that are saying the district's financial position is strong, a net position of $74.6 million. And other budgetary adjustments and projection will be discussed tonight. If you flip the page, I will show you our current
That's-
salary schedule.
That's time.
Okay. As I do have a copy of this letter as well as other adjustments that I hope the board takes a look at that you will consider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the list is David Hope, please.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to follow up what Paul said to the board about issues that arose in the Post-Dispatch and considerations when we look at the budgetary issues. My colleagues and I have issues with the district statements regarding some of these issues. First, IBB was used for language only, interest-based bargaining. This was an agreement between SDNEA and SSD. A mediator participated without issues. For the district to say it was not followed is incorrect at best. With some form of buyer's remorse, SSD is now telling everyone it was not done correctly. Second, the district said we received a 6.7% increase over the years with Dr. Keenan. Please remember, this board imposed on us the first year of her tenure. That 6.7 is over 4 years, which was actually negotiated to be 16.28%. Unfortunately, with the loss of millions in attrition every year that we attempt to point out, we lost 10% as certified staff. In 2020, for example, we negotiated a 3% raise, but only saw 1.5% or 1.56% of that raise due to attrition. We've asked SSD to be fully honest about that fact. Yes, salaries were raised 6.7%, but there was almost 10% lost in those raises for our staff over the course of those 4 years. That 6.7% does not come anywhere close to the 4-year rate of inflation. The staff is now making less than they did 4 years ago. Third is the statement that this board was not fully briefed. I find that very hard to believe. Our ground rules every year since I have been negotiating say that people at the table can make decisions. Yet every year the SSD team has to go back and talk to the board for more information. SDNEA has even asked to have a board member as part of the SSD team, as many districts in this area do, but are always met with a resounding no. We are the educators on the front line with our students. We are the ones who are in this game for fighting to right the ship. We are not trying to make ourselves look good in the press. We line up to speak here for 3 minutes, but never hear any response from the board. Please do not disparage our efforts to ensure that members of SDNEA have a real living wage and share the information that SSD continues to have over $220 million in reserves and is not in a deficit as reported. Let's move forward together using facts and data, not cause fear with misleading information. Please remember that our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. Staff should feel appreciated, not like cogs in the wheel that are easily replaced. And right now, that is what most of our staff feel this district and board views them as. The statements from SSD in this article did nothing but stem those feelings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the list. Would someone like to make a motion for the approval of the consensual items?
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent reports, strategic plan, continuous school improvement plan.
Great, thank you. Tonight, we will have 4 presentations, the first of 3, which are from Dr. Molly Bolton. She will be updating the board on both the strategic plan, CSIP second quarter, and the results from the program monitor reports. And then lastly, we will have here curriculum and instruction plan, and then Deputy Superintendent Kelly Grigsby. Thank you, Dr. Bolton.
Good evening, President Cuneo, Board of Directors, and Dr. Macklin. My name is Molly Bolton, and I am the the Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability, and it still says Executive Director up there. I apologize. So tonight, I will be presenting the second quarter strategic plan and CSIP plan updates. So just a reminder, again, this is our 3rd year of a 5-year plan for these updates. The next slide is just our standard slide showing the difference between the strategic plan and the CSIP plan, just to refresh your memory as we're going through the presentation. And we'll start with the strategic plan this evening. So for our strategy goal 1, really looking at those database systems to really support equitable resources as well as instruction through operations as well as the instructional side. So you might remember last quarter we reported we hit a little snag with the company we were working with in order to develop a system where we could ensure data sharing between districts. So we're happy to report now we have contracted with Authentica Seed Product, and that will help us. It's kind of like a data warehouse management system, and that will really help us kind of support some of that bi-directional data sharing between us and our partner districts, as well as us sharing information back to our partner districts. We are also continuing conversations with educational analytics, and that's really going to be, so we have the data warehouse piece, that's going to be the system that creates the dashboards and the easy access for our staff then to access those systems. And so both of those pieces are in progress to finally get us to a place where we'll have good data sharing. We also are doing training with Focus, which is our new student information system, with the data analytics portion. That's just beginning. So we're hoping that that student information system will also have some good data analytics pieces that we can see student data, especially from our schools. That's where most of our schools' data is housed. And then we're continuing to implement some data governance improvements through our Lawson or Inform upgrade that the district is experiencing. And part of that is developing a data dictionary. So as we're looking at certain data pieces or using certain terms, everybody's on the same page with what those are. For goal 2, looking at how we distribute our resources. So as you remember, 2.1 has been completed for a while, and 2.2 is really developing those methods to look at our resources, kind of developing that common framework. So as we're looking at those resources across districts, we're really able to see that in a way that is transparent. Also, Alan Wheat is the champion for that, and he has held some town halls, especially with our speech language pathologists, and really making the process of how we're looking at our resource distribution more transparent for staff, and being able to gather feedback and answer questions that they might have. So the next piece for that team is really to look at resource capacity through this framework that's been developed, and really thinking about what are those local needs that might not show through as easily. So that they're not distorting the results, saying that we think things are equitable when there might be other factors that we need to be considering. Strategic goal 3 is really that communication strategy. So the first one is really around those business partnerships that we have. And so that team has developed an FAQ and really looking at some of the themes around that to really determine a good format in order to place that on our website so that our partners have a good place to go when they might have some of those frequently asked questions and we have the answers available for them. Dr. Diggs is also through, we talked about back in the fall, our equity framework is coming to a close. So we're really looking at how to infuse some of those equity pieces into our strategic and CSIP plans. And so he has been working with this team to ensure those pieces are embedded within the work they're doing. And then the community partnership survey was launched in January, and that closed at the end of January. So now they're in the process of really analyzing some of those results. So kind of their next steps is really looking at how we define our partnerships, especially those that do not involve financial commitments, as opposed to those that do. And then creating a who to contact document for folks who want to partner with and work with the district in different capacities. so that folks aren't just doing a generic number, or we've had some folks that have used Let's Talk, and then we have to figure out which department might be best for them to work for, really trying to create that contact directory for them to really find who they're looking for straight on, so to save some time. And then creating an action plan for the infusion of the equity into the conversations. 3.2, engaging with our families. One of the things that you'll get to see next month, which we are super proud of, is our success handbooks that we're using with the counselors and social workers. And also FACE will be coming to present all the work that they've been doing. So you'll get to see a lot of this firsthand next month. And really working with directors and liaisons in those partner districts. They're working on an infographic for our families to really explain in very layman's terms the evaluation process and everything that entailed in that. Also working on that equity analysis, like I spoke about previously. And then the family survey just closed again at the end of January as well. So they're going to start analyzing those results and really looking at how we can action plan around those. This team's work is just about completed. So we're also working on a sustainability plan where a lot of this work will fold into the family and community engagement team to continue. 3.3 is that communication systems amongst departments. They completed a pilot for an internal branding process. They did that pilot with the equity department. And next they will be, we just finished creating a process map of what that branding process looks like. And that will be coming to DLT, and then really working on gathering feedback from that pilot group to ensure we have a good process in place. Now we'll move on to our CSIP updates. So for CSIP goal 1.1 is really looking at that post-secondary or transition programming. This team has really been working to connect the Charting the Life course work to the IEP, and then also bringing in that self-determination aspect of it. So they've been working on a reflection tool really to help drive some of that instruction for self-determination, but then also utilizing those Charting the Life course tools to increase student engagement in the IEPs and family engagement as well. They're continuing to develop resources and tools for that piece, and just making sure we are gathering student voice. So one of the things that they have developed is a communication almost book, if you will, for our students who are low verbal or nonverbal, so that they can participate in the Charting the Life course All About Me aspect, and using that tool with the visual supports. If you'd like to see one, I can bring it to you. The next steps for this team is they are developing a student survey, really to look at that student self-determination and where we feel like we are with that from our students' perspectives. And then working on that process improvement of that student-driven IEP and how we can incorporate those pieces more into that, and then continuing the rollout for the training district-wide. 1.2 is really looking at the connections between student data and research. And so they have been working with Melville School District and our SSD Student Services, or Ellen Wheat, to really do some case use around the services we provide, as well as the goal and goal progress that we're seeing there. So this is kind of the prototype that they've developed. So we're going to continue to test and refine that prototype and the dashboards from that case use. And then also collaborate with Strategy 1.1 on the work that they're doing with that data sharing, and see how we can kind of meld these together a little bit. 1.3 is the collaborative planning with our partners. So again, working on that equity work and looking through the theory of change. Also communicating planning meetings with superintendent, deputy superintendent, and chief of communications to really build a good structure for some of those meetings coming up. They are working on a restructure of their team. Also, going to review some survey data that they've gotten from our liaisons as well as our partners to see really where the team wants to focus on moving forward. Planning out and beginning those focus groups, again, to kind of get that voice for our partnership agreements as we're moving forward with that communication and collaboration. And then the communication plan to ensure that we have that really consistent approach to our partnerships with our partner districts. When we look at goal number 2, there we go. There's a little bit of a delay here. I'm not sure. And I think I'm clicking too much. Yep, I'm clicking too much. Okay. Try it one more time. There we go. Goal 2, 2.1 is really looking at that programming decisions and how we do programming across the county, what we're calling our programming, all of those pieces. So definitely this team has added a few new team members that they felt their voices were missing on that team, and really developing a structure for some work groups around what programming looks like at each level, meaning elementary, middle, and high. And those work groups will review the previous work completed and then develop a plan of action on how to move forward with synchronizing some of those programming decisions across the county. 2.2 is effective evidence-based practices. We have a subcommittee that is creating a core resource guide for our partner districts to use as they're looking at their tier 1 or their core programming in the areas of literacy, math, as well as social emotional learning. We hope to have that finished by the end of this year. We have several districts that are very excited. They are doing some new adoptions of materials next year, and they're excited to use this resource to help them through their investigations. We also have crafted our end user interviews for the evidence-based practice guide. So we developed a prototype. I kind of talked about that last update, where we kind of have all of our evidence-based tools in one place. So what we did was we randomly selected teaching staff, not just teachers, but also related service providers, and interviewed them, showing them our prototype and getting feedback from them to determine if this tool would be helpful for them. And so now we've finished those interviews, and we are in the process of a process improvement based on the feedback that many of our stakeholders gave us. They were super excited about this tool, about having everything in one place. So we're excited to keep moving on it. So we'll be analyzing that, making those improvements, and then developing our communication plan on how that tool will be rolled out. Our last CSIP goal is goal 3, where we look at student mobility. And so some things that have been accomplished by this team is they have created a quick start card for registration. And the cool thing about this is it's registration processes for across the county. So depending on which district you're enrolling with, it has a quick start card for what you need for that district to complete your enrollment, because different districts sometimes require different documentation. So really trying to do that quick start card that we can share with our families if they are transferring to a different district, so they will not be delayed in getting their child enrolled. They will also be working on some teacher handbook guidance for how to handle transfer students coming in, and then also looking at those quick start cards being a part of that as well, so that our teachers have easy access to those resources. And then this team is kind of wrapping up their work as well, so they are also working on that sustainability plan. And that is all of our updates. What questions might you have?
I had a question about slide 10 in reference to 2.1. I just want to know who was added to the team, like what voices was felt that were missing.
You know what? I will have to check on that. I believe it was some different partner districts, some coordinators,
Okay.
as well as a few other directors to represent a more wide variety of districts.
Thank you.
And if that's not correct, I'll get the correct information to you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I I have a question about the quick start card. Is that something, how does one determine when to use that card or when to develop it? Is it developed across all IEPs or?
So this was for students with all the districts. So there's a quick start card for each district. So for example, if you are a student transferring into the Hazelwood School District, there's a quick start card on the registration process for the Hazelwood School District. So, you know, that will be available on, I'm hoping we can even get it on our website. So so families can just access it that way. But it will also be something that teachers, as they know a student might be transferring out, could proactively say, what district are you going to? And here's a quick start card to help you with that registration process.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. On slide 5, this is kind of a big question, and it's more food for thought. Our contract with Authentic Seed to work on that bidirectional data. Have we thought about in this system and in other systems, trying to consolidate contracts with some partner school districts to create efficiencies?
So we have kind of looked at, we are a little unique
Yeah.
compared to other school districts because we are trying to bring in a lot of things from other school districts. You know, where other school districts, they pretty much have their SIS, their student information system, and that's what they use. We don't have a SIS system for all of our students. Where we have all of our students is mostly in ESI and Phoenix. Because our students are in the partner district SIS. And so that's what makes it kind of challenging and how we're a little different than most of, you know, like what would work for a Rockwood or, you know, a Hazelwood wouldn't necessarily work for us just because of the way our system is set up.
That makes sense. Thanks for explaining.
Absolutely.
Boy, thank you so much for this report. It's really comprehensive. I've got a couple questions that kind of revolve around the reporting out of information. I know we have rehab services coming into the schools and working with our kids to look at job placement and helping them transition. I also know that at the tech schools, we're doing some work with Amarin, for example, and some other
Inspire.
programs.
Lots of, yeah.
How are we tracking that information to make sure we can show DESE, look, we're meeting standards and getting these kids certified and
Sure.
so forth?
So we do keep track of our partnerships that we have. So we are able to track that. I know the tech schools especially do a very nice job of keeping track of those partnerships and then the success rate that we have with placement in those, you know, in those partners as kids graduate and move forward.
Now, does that data help us with our DESE report card kind of thing?
So I think it would help us in the, when we do the post-secondary follow-up with them, you know, knowing who has been employed in the field that they have studied in.
And so the transition IEP happens and some of these other programs happen. So we have a multi-layer approach
Yes.
to providing those services. So I'm just kind of wondering how we might be able to use that with the state looking at alternative certifications and so forth of how do we make sure we're reporting out the successes we're having like other school districts can with test scores.
Right. Well, and there's the post-secondary follow-up
Right.
that we report out just like every other district, you know, where we try to, you know, follow up with our graduates and find out where their placement is moving forward and that sort of thing. So that's very similar to what we do with other districts. The rest of it would be more anecdotal.
Right.
You know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. If everybody else, goal 3, our response is experience for highly mobile students.
Yes.
One of the things that what percentage of our students with IEPs, their families transfer from one school to another? I know what it was 2 years ago. I remember the slide. It was an April 2023 board meeting. You presented it. What is it now? Do you know?
I do not, but I can get you the information for Friday packet.
And the reason why I'm interested in that, especially if I remember right, the one that was most difficult we had some that were highly mobile, especially in the North County area.
Yes.
If I remember right, it was most striking in the Hazelwood area. And what I'm wondering, not only do they transfer from school to school, pardon me, from district to district, but I'd look at school to school. And I'd also be interested, because one of our goals at that time was that we would have one teacher throughout with that student throughout the school year. How many of our kids, how many of our students transfer during the school year itself? Because before, I remember that one of the difficulties were we were doing our best to keep an individual in that position throughout the school year.
A teacher.
Because it was
anticipated.
best.
Yes,
But we were also having troubles because what was happening is we had families that would move from one place to another, then that would cause a difficulty.
yes.
I'm wondering, I don't know how you address that. I love the card idea because then it could flow, but I was just wondering what percentage.
I can get that to you. I don't
Thank
have
you.
that right now,
Thank
but I
you.
can definitely get that
Thank
to you.
you.
Absolutely.
So, please.
All right. No other questions. We'll move on. So the next presentation, I'm going to have Matt Trevor join me, who is the director of our evaluation and research team, to talk to us about our Missouri School Improvement Plan monitoring reports. So this evening, we do have 3 reports to share with you. Just a quick reminder, and we can't get the slide to work, but I'm just gonna tell you, this is fulfilling the DESE CSIP requirement, MSIP requirement for program monitoring and evaluation. We do have some programs that we monitor annually and some that we monitor biannually. And really, this just helps keep our stakeholders informed of how we're doing with these programs, as well as, using continuous improvement to ensure that our programs are effective. So the 3 programs that we have reporting on today are student health services, multi-tiered systems of support, and our SSD schools school counseling program. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
Person in charge of the clicker.
Yes, I'll let him do it.
Thanks, Dr. Bolton. Good evening. As Dr. Bolton mentioned, we have 3 programs we're going to share with you tonight. This slide is just an explainer of what you see when you look in the program monitoring reports. Our 2021 results are starting to fall off these reports. So hopefully in the near future, we can drop that caveat that appears at the bottom of this slide. So the first program is our multi-tiered systems of support program. So we have 6 MTSS facilitators, and their focus is primarily providing systems level support to our administrative teams that work in partner districts. So actually partner district staff as much as SSD staff. So there are 4 indicators that we use to monitor this program. Those indicators are stair-stepped, if you will, moving from sort of lower levels of adoption and implementation to higher levels of adoption and implementation. The first one represents the extent to which districts that are committed to MTSS access that coaching. So as of 2023-24, we had 7 committed districts. As of this year, I believe it's 9 committed districts. So those 2 new districts that have come on, their results will not be reflected in these data. But for the most part, there's been improvement in these results from 2022-23 to 2023-24. So of the 7 districts that were committed, 6 were fully accessing coaches provided by our MTSS team. The second indicator there speaks to the existence of an implementation plan. And again, 6 of 7 districts did have an implementation plan in 2023-24, which is a big improvement over the prior year. The third indicator speaks to the actual implementation of multi-tiered systems of support. So districts that are demonstrating that at a relatively high level. The overall percentage decreased a bit, but there was over 3 times as many districts implementing in 2023-24. So that's a positive.
Do you think you can really compare that one? I mean, you go 2 out of 2, out of 6 out of 7.
Yeah, you should probably keep that end in mind, right?
Yeah, I keep that in mind. I'm not so sure I buy that. Okay.
So then the final indicator you can think of as actually a student level impact of our MTS services. And what they've chosen to look at is disproportionality rates in the districts receiving supports, and that specifically disproportionality in the area of discipline, and is disproportionality based on student race category declining in those districts. And for 6 of the 7 districts over the period of 1 year, disproportionality did decline. So that's a positive.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah.
The professionals,
Just out of curiosity, is the same district that's the 6 out of 7? Don't give me the name of the district. It's 6 out of 7 for existence of plans, implementation of plans, accessing coaching. Is it the same district each time? It's 6 out of 7, 6 out of 7, 6 out of 7, 6 out of 7.
yeah, that's a good question. That would be my guess. I actually wanted to point out, I neglected to do this. We did notice a bit of a typo there on the 3rd indicator for implementation of plans. So that 23-24 result should actually be 5 out of 6. If you notice in the indicator before that, there were 6 districts that were actually implementing. So that will be 83%. So we'll get that corrected in this report. But I would imagine that, but off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Dr. Cooney, are you making an assumption that if the plan isn't being fully implemented, then you wouldn't expect that the disproportionality rates to go down? Is that what you're implying?
No, I'm just wondering if I have one district that is my outlier. When I'm starting to look at this, maybe I need to work with that one district, but the plan is successful is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
If it's not that I'm doubting the data.
Mhm.
I'm just figuring how I'm going to use the data later.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, not doubting. I was saying like if there's one district not implementing, then it's safe to assume that they might not meet those goals because they're not
Right.
implementing fully.
And it's also the one I'm guessing for the existence of plans and the access and coaching.
Yeah. In theory, you could have had a district that wasn't doing a great job accessing coaching, but they still were implementing at a pretty high level. So professional school counseling, this refers to the program implemented in our SSD and career technical education schools and the counselors who work in those settings. So the results, this is an every other year reporting cycle for this one, and the results are pretty positive on the whole. So the first indicator reflects this. DESE provided self-evaluation of program implementation. It's a pretty extensive instrument. And as of 2023-24, we were approaching 100% implementation of the school counseling program. So it's been a good amount of growth on the part of that program, because if you go prior to 2020, there was actually some years where they were dipping below 70 or 60% in their implementation. So they achieved that result just in time for DESE to issue a update to that instrument, which they will begin using in 2025-26. Post-school planning. So this is the percentage of students in grades 8 to 12 who have what we call an ICAP, or an individual career and academic plan, completed or reviewed. So the percentage there also has increased, along with some improvements that were put into place, and it's approaching 100%. And then a new indicator for this report is the percent of CTE, juniors and seniors, for whom a Charting the Life course plan was developed. So I'm sure you've heard about Charting the Life course to date. It's a big district initiative that's going to be rolling out. So the first year's result of that was 96.4%. So that definitely exceeds their initial year goal of 85%. Student Health Services is the final program that we're going to update you on. Most of their indicators, or pretty much all of them, are staffing related. So just a big challenge for that program is maintaining nursing staffing levels that are sufficient to meet the needs of students. So that's what we focus on. The first one is whether we have a sufficient number of nurses to meet student need in general. This is full-time nurses. So basically does our number of nurses equal the number of nurses that we budgeted for? And in 2023-24, we met that goal. So with a 1-to-1 ratio there. Our substitute staff remains a challenge. So we are have a ways to go to meet that goal of a decent sized substitute nursing pool, but we are making some improvement plans, gains there. And I know some additional improvements are going to be put into place to try to work on that. The final indicator, there is some room for improvement there. This reflects the number of days that a student who is receiving one-on-one nursing had to be absent from school due to a nursing shortage. So I think that is also going to be the focus of improvement moving forward. Questions that we can answer?
You were very complete.
I have a question. Thank you. Yes, thank you for the report. I'm still trying to learn some things, some pretty new still. On slide 4, the multi-tiered systems of support, there are 7 schools participating. Is this something that's available to all 23 districts and to all schools? And then why is the number 7? Why are the number of participants at 7?
That is the number of districts.
7 districts out of the
Yeah, and
23.
you could probably speak to that better than I could if you want to.
So there are 7 districts. It is offered to, we have capacity to do more. Many districts already have pretty solid plans in place and do not feel like they need the support. Some of them are also using outside consultants. And so they want to go with that outside consultant as opposed to using, the staff that we have. So that's some of the reasons why. Some of them, the MTSS was not the priority for their initiatives. They had other initiatives in place or other initiatives that they were pursuing. And so they declined support at this time.
Could you get us the 7 districts in our?
They are actually in the report that you have in the back. And I will say I'm in conversations with other districts. We do have other districts who have already committed for next year. I have 2 additional districts for next year, Webster Groves, as well as Valley Park. And then 2 districts who are still talking with their teams and deciding if they were going to move forward with the support.
So is there 7 currently or 9 currently?
So I think there are 7 currently. So when you look at the 7 we had in this report, then we have Melville, who did not access during this report cycle, but is accessing now. And then we will be adding the additional 2 next year, potentially 4 next year.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Where is the report we have in the back?
Do we not get handouts?
It's under the action item 6.02.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I'll see if I can find it.
Thank you.
Okay.
In board docs.
It's in board docs.
Oh,
yeah,
thank-
okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
5-year plan and curriculum and instruction.
All right, moving on to the final presentation for me tonight is our 5-year plan for curriculum instruction. So the purpose of this is just to kind of update you on what has happened since last year and where we are in the plan and how we're going to move forward. So real quickly, as I do every year, I'm just going to give you a little quick overview, the difference between curriculum and instruction. So curriculum is really the what, not the how. So it's what we want students to know and be able to do. And the curriculum is really what provides that continuity for our students across the district. Also, the instruction piece is how you teach those things that you want students to know and be able to do. And that's where we have a lot of flexibility and we differentiate that based on student needs. So you have to have both pieces. Both are super important to kids learning, but there is a difference between the two. So the way our curriculum is aligned is we do have courses, and then within those courses, we have bigger units of study. Within those units, we have smaller topics, and that leads us down to what we call the learning target level, which is actually the statement of what we want students to know and be able to do. We also combined the instruction with the curriculum with assessment, and all of that helps us inform that student learning. So if we take a look at the goals that we've had in the 5-year plan, the first being that curriculum is reviewed and updated on a regular schedule, and that is both for our SSD schools as well as our career and technical education schools. In June, I always bring before you all the curriculums that we have reviewed and updated for the year. All of our curriculums that we had on target for this year with the calendar are on target to be completed and entered in and be available for your approval at the June meeting. Materials and textbooks, we do review those on a regular schedule. And all those materials are updated and are on track for approval also in June. So we'll be telling you the specific things that we reviewed. Instruction is supplemented and augmented in the partner districts by doing the integrated tiered models of support. So those are actually being completed this week, where we will be updated with what each district is using for materials as well as assessments for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And those are available on our website, so everyone has access to those. Within that then, our directors, along with the curriculum folks in the partner districts, do a gap analysis and determine what professional learning may be needed for staff moving forward in the following year. And the last goal is that staff are supported to provide that high quality instruction using those high leverage practices. So we have our instructional coaches that complete those observations, do walkthroughs, and provide that feedback and do impact cycles with our teachers on those plans. If you look at the next slide, this is where you'll see the courses that have been reviewed this year for both the special education schools as well as the career and technical schools. I'm going to need a little help with the slide, please. Again, these will be brought to you for approval at the June meeting. Then goal 2, the materials. You can see here the materials that were reviewed and updated. So science 6 through 8 and math K through 12. And then our career and technical schools, we had 3 courses that we looked at for resources there as well. We are going to implement our centralized purchasing again, where we look at our bigger vendors and compile one big order from our district. That allows us higher discounts as well as more free materials by doing that. And we've really improved that process a lot. Our distribution has really been honed in, and happy to say that most of the materials, unless they were on back order from the company, were received by our teachers before the beginning of school. So we've really worked purchasing as well as Matt Trouber really works with me in evaluation and research. Our purchasing department as well as our distribution center really work hard to keep these processes in place so that our teachers can get what they need right away. When we look at that goal 3, as I said, those tiered model analysis are finishing up this week. You can also see here the list of those MTSS districts, which you also saw in the previous report. Having conversations, Brentwood, Lindbergh, Pattonville, Valley Park, and Webster Groves. Valley Park and Webster Groves have already agreed and committed for next year. When we look at that goal 4, we do our universal walkthroughs, as well as our content area coaches in the area of math, literacy, and social emotional learning, providing training and support on those tier 2, tier 3 supports. Our para-professional induction plan continues to grow, and we have our para coaches providing that support, and that has been a big satisfier in helping us retain staff as well. And then we do have our professional learning for administrators in both leadership, which includes our operational and instructional staff, as well as then one half day a month, we do special education process for our leadership as well. We continue our foundational professional learning for our staff for literacy, numeracy, and social emotional. You can see those programs there. And that really just helps our staff be confident in those foundational skills so that they can then get to that specialized instruction. So kind of our future plans as we move forward, we are going to continue. I'm still working on this. There we go. Continue our summer academy or our principals institute for our partner district principals. If you can attend, we would love to see you there. It's on June 25th. Last year we had over 2,000 partner district folks come and join us in sessions very specific around special education and those other supports. So if you can attend this year, we will be at South Tech this year. We do alternate between North and South Tech. We will also, in our SSD schools, really continue our work around proficiency skills and our competency-based learning in those areas, as well as continuing to, as we're analyzing staffing allocations, reviewing our staffing and supports from the teaching, learning, and accountability area. What questions might you have?
Just added it to my calendar, sorry.
All right, awesome. Love it that you're adding it.
Oh,
Make sure you let me know though, so we can get you a lunch order.
I was gonna ask, can you like give us times?
Yes,
What?
it's from 8:30 to 3:30.
Better
And
time.
then in the Friday packet, I'll send you the program and everything, so you can even see the things that will be offered.
Thank you.
And then there's a registration, so go ahead and register. That way we can make sure you get a lunch.
Thank you.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
That's fun. People who are stitch listen. On this.
Good evening, Dr. Cuneo, Board of Directors, Dr. Macklin. My name is Kelly Grigsby. I'm Deputy Superintendent. I'm pleased to be here tonight to welcome Ann Hawkey, the principal at Juvenile Detention Center. She's going to be talking with us about her recommendation, her team's recommendation for a new name for the school.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. So as Dr. Grigsby said, I'm here to talk about our committee results that we started back in the fall to rename our school at the Juvenile Detention Center. So today we're going to look at how we developed the name, what we determined, and we have 3 options to put before you tonight. So our purpose here was to build a more cohesive school community and to eliminate some implicit bias that comes with really the school records transfer. That's really what kind of brought this on in the naming of the school. Pardon me. On the right here, we have our school committee, or our committee for this process. Myself, we did have a student on the committee, Kristen Jacobs, who is the Assistant Director of Detention Services. Jacob McIntyre, who is one of our teachers at the school. He does teach social studies. Mr. James Tyus, who is an SSD paraprofessional, and Janica Shearer from our Communications Director. We did meet 4 times and reached our consensus here in this information today. So just briefly, before I go through these names, we did meet and we did a lot of research on naming the school, right? We have all these schools named throughout the country, but how does that happen? So that was kind of cool to look at that and, kind of see what happens and where it comes from. So we really started with a review of our mission and vision, which we just redid our mission and vision in May of last year. So we also did not previously have a logo or a mascot or anything like that. So Janica did help me last last summer to kind of look at a start to that. So kind of an interim as we explored this process. And in that, we had come up with a logo that had some mountains in it. So we had some mountain stuff going on. Thank you. Going on in the school. And that really took a lot of precedence as we discussed this process. So our first option tonight is Summit Academy. As you can see up here, we kind of put the mascot in colors with it too, because that is something we don't currently have either. Our second one was Eddie School, and our third one was Ambition Academy. All right, and with that, do you have any questions? And it was part of board policy to do the 1 to 3 is what we needed to bring to you guys. I know it looks kind of weird, but
The Summit Academy makes sense. Ambition Academy. What is Eddie School?
Eddie School, yeah. So actually our social studies teacher did the research on that one. So when we kind of started talking about possibly looking into this, Mr. McIntyre looked into the juvenile detention center in the city. The school there is Griscom School. So he looked at Griscom School and did some research on that to see where they found that school name. So Mr. Griscom and Mr. Eddy worked together on prison reform in the late 1700s in New York. And so both of those individuals were very relevant in prison reform.
So is the whole, if it's Eddie School, it's named after
Eddy, who was Thomas Eddy.
Thomas Eddy.
Yes, Thomas Eddy. He has a few publications too. Yes.
Did he work with juveniles?
It was just prison reform, so it was not very specifically with juveniles.
Are these ranked in order of preference by?
Yes, yes, they are.
So the first choice of the team is Summit.
Correct.
Did the student on your team have a preference?
He wanted to name it after himself. However,
I love
it. It did go very well too. We liked it. It went very well with Academy also. But he liked all of them. He was a very integral part of the process and really gave a lot of feedback and really worked with his peers to give us additional feedback. But he was happy with the whole list.
Great mascot choice, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Were other students involved at all? I know that you had one on the committee, but did he go back and talk to the?
Right, yes, so
group
he
and-
went back and talked to him. We also have the assistant director also talked to them, the teachers. We did some discussions in classes. Mr. McIntyre sees half of our students, so he also had some conversations in class. So we had quite a bit of student feedback.
I'm really excited that you have kids from all over the county.
Correct, yeah.
Come to this program. And I did a report years ago on the number of kids that actually go back to their home school, and very few do.
Mhm.
And so having something they can say, I went here and this made a difference for me, I think it's real important that they own it.
Yes,
And so I'm really excited about that.
thank you, yeah, I agree.
Can we make a request for t-shirts?
Yes, you sure can. I have the Special Ed Foundation grant that is dedicated to this specifically.
Large, please.
Yes.
Well done.
Any more? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any questions? All right, on to action items. Okay. Okay. Dr. Macklin, stage is yours.
Dear SSD family and Board of Education, for more than 25 years, Fontbonne University has blessed the presence with special school district students and teachers on their campus. With Fontbonne's announcement last March that it would close mid-August this year, the wonderful partnership will be coming to an end. Those of us at Fontbonne wanted you to know how much we have valued the opportunity and have your students and staff members as a part of our university community. Beginning in 1998, the program started under the supervision of Madeline Krizuka, who worked with various paraprofessionals for their first years in the program. Tracy McKinney began oversight in the program in 2007 When Madeline retired in 2017, Mike McCurtney became the teacher and has the oversight of the program since that time. We have enjoyed interactions with your staff and your students during my previous 5 years at Fontbonne as academic vice president, and since my return to the university as the president during the summer of 2020. I've seen and interacted with your students in the dining hall, in the mailroom, and many of your staff. In the past, they have brought snacks for us to sell weekly. We have participated in their annual graduation celebrations, giving them small tokens of Fontbonne swag in remembrance of their time here on campus. In short, we have been a part of the same family, educational family, and working and learning together. We have been blessed by your presence of SSD students and employees and hope that they feel the same. As I near closing of this wonderful institution, as you know, as Fontbonne University, we want to let you know that we wish you and your staff and students well. President Nancy A. Blattner. Thank you, Dr. Cuneo.
Thank you. Any comments on this? All right. Now the board will take up the action items. First, strategic plan and comprehensive school improvement plans, second quarter update. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 6.02. Missouri School Improvement Plan Program Monitoring Reports. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Purchase of service contracts with behavior helper. 6.03. Motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I will be abstaining from this item.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? With one abstention. 6.04, purchase of service contracts with applied behavior services. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Purchase of service contract with Center for Autism Education.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the position conversion. There are motion, is there a 6.06?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Motion carries.
We need to vote.
We have to vote.
Wait, pardon me, vote. Should have a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 6.07. The Ad hoc Facility Naming Committee, JDC renaming approval. Is there a motion to approve the new names?
So moved.
I move that we rename the Juvenile Detention Center School to Summit Academy.
Second.
There you go.
Any discussion?
I just would like to say, like, I mean, I wish we could look up Thomas Eddy, but I don't really know much about him. Not really comfortable.
Oh, do you want to? Do you want to
delay it?
No, the Summit is number one, and it makes perfect sense for it to be Summit Academy with the Mountaineers. So I fully support that. I just want to add that we just didn't know much about Thomas Eddy.
I'll tell you what, I'll look it up for next time. You got me. I'm interested. I'm interested now. All right. We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Transition Parkway Transportation Contract to in-house in FY 26. Is there a motion to approve the transportation positions?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And finally, budget adjustment 6.09. Is there a motion to approve the adjustment as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Someone like to make a motion for a closed meeting of the Board of Education for February 25th, 2025 and March 11th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
I need to have a roll call vote on this one.
Director Asner,
Yes.
Director Moeller,
Yes.
Director Sartorius.
Yes.
Director Suda,
Yes.
Vice President Staton,
Yes.
President Cuneo.
Yes. Okay. Board communications, anybody? Dr. Sartorius. Please tell us you have been nominated, you will be
Oh,
nominated?
yes, I've been asked by representatives of the Missouri School Board Association to serve on the board for the Missouri Security Investment Program, which is a program throughout the state that helps funding for school districts, municipalities, and so forth, where they can put their money before they need to expend it, so they can receive interest on that money. So it's a group that meets several times a year and reviews the stability of those funds. The nice thing to know is every penny put into that is guaranteed to come back. The only concern is what interest we'll get on that money may vary depending on when we need to take it out and how long we can leave it there and so forth. So it's opened up to fire departments, ambulance districts, school districts, and other agencies throughout the state. So it's a good way to keep your money growing instead of just sitting there being stagnant.
And you're going to be
A board of directors,
You're going to be on the board. Well, congratulations.
something else.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I have one go on,
Go ahead.
Joanne. No, go,
Oh,
Joanne.
I've been engaged in a few things, lots been
Please.
going on actually, so was able to stop by for reception for Rita Bowen. As she had her last day here in the district, and it was nice that we were able to have that. And it was in the afternoon, so not a lot of people were able to come, but I was happy I was able to. As you may know, I'm on the Character Plus board, and there's been a lot going on with them. We had a board meeting and things are strong. I attended their At the Table program, which is a program designed to have women encourage each other as leaders. There were several SSD staff there, and that was really a lovely event. I also attended the District Leadership Academy for educators at Character Plus today. Went to Lindbergh High School. They're a national school of character, and they do something called a power lunch, which was really interesting. The students have 1 hour to eat lunch and to engage in clubs and to do they can connect with their teachers. And the young woman who was our tour guide, the tour guide for our group, did not know that I was on the SSD board. And she said that one thing that she finds really special about the power lunch is that the special school district students are able to engage. And they all have varying amounts of help that they need. Some of them are pretty independent and some of them are there with helpers. And she felt that that was really an inclusive place for them. So I was happy to hear that. That was a spontaneous comment on her part. Dr. Sartorius and I attended a finance committee meeting at the end of January.
Right.
That's what you call that. And I attended a wellness committee meeting. It was pretty short and sweet, but they're looking for outside resources that can support staff and student wellness. So if you know of any, let the district and the committee know, and we'll pass that along. We're supposed to be looking for those resources. And the last thing, I attended school district of University City, state of the district, last week, and it was interesting just to hear where they are. I like that they have a stakeholder event, and so it was nice to be part of that. So it's been kind of a busy time. Thank you.
Joe.
Joanne, you forgot one other thing. The legislative meeting we had
Oh,
the other morning,
thank you.
several of us, Carmen and myself, and were in attendance. And it's real important to keep up with what's going on legislatively. in the state and the federal government right now. A lot of it will affect education and special education in particular. And so the more we can be aware and speak to our legislators of supporting education, I think the better off we'll be. So.
Yes, we had two Missouri House representatives there and two representatives from legislators at the federal level.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a
Any-
good meeting. Thank you, the SSD hosted.
Anyone else?
He attended the autism
Autism committee.
the autism committee last week.
Yeah.
I joined late, unfortunately, so I think you were present for the whole meeting. One comment from a parent that I heard then and have heard before was concerns about how we support students who are high functioning but have developmental delays in meeting their needs, as opposed to kids who are low and sort of have lower moderate needs. And I've heard that comment made by parents before. So
I find the autism committee very informing. Just thank you for everybody coming. I have one comment and one request, okay? And we can put this down as a board request. We will be losing at least, we will have 2 new members coming up shortly. Scott, we're sorry to see you go. But we replace Scott and we will have another member. So we have 2 coming. What I would recommend is after today, we have a billion acronyms, you know, there's a ton of acronyms floating around today and on the thing. What I would like is, I know we have a dictionary for acronyms. What's the possibility of being able to get something on like a computer like this, where it is, where all you do is type in the acronym and it gives you what it means.
So Chief Henry's working on that. And in the interim,
And the reason why I'd love to have this by the time we have our new board members, because I just go back and when it's hard enough to try to figure out what's going on a board, but when it's like somebody speaking Greek or Latin, half the time, and you're trying to figure out what's that word mean. And so I think it would be very good to have it in time by the time we swear in the new board members. And make it simple, not just written. I'd love it so it would be on a computer so that if an acronym comes up, all I had to do is type in the acronym and it tells you what it is. Is that a possibility? That's fantastic because I find education has its own terminology,
Yes.
It's its own language. All right. Thank you then. And then hopefully we will have in time when we have our new board members. With that, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Come on.
second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.